All right, part one covered the directory structure to some extent, and we'll cover that a little bit more, and file systems. Part two, we'll talk about the rest of the stuff. Now, initially, thinking about inodes to begin with. So, taking a look, you use the -I for inode with the listing command, ls command, and that gives you the size of the file, device ID, user ID of the file, and so on and so forth. What it really does, it points to the physical location on the drive where a particular file or folder is stored. So with that, let me bounce over here to our VM. Okay, so we'll go to the terminal. Okay, excuse me. So we will just be at that root level or that home directory. So ls is, of course, the list, those files. ls space -I provides the inode address of each one of these particular folders or files. Now you can also go and add arguments together or add options together. -L is the long listing. So it shows you the permission set, the owner, the user, the date created, and so on. Okay, but you can combine -L and -I to show you the inode address as well. So remember that inode address really is a reference to the physical location of a file on that drive. Next, taking a look at paths, path names, and prompts. Going back over here, there's well, let me bounce back. Right there. So an absolute path begins at the root level and lists all subdirectories to the destination file. And as long as you're not too deep in the directory set, it's pretty quick and easy. It's probably easier to, especially at an introductory level, to go ahead and use absolute paths. Relative path is relative to your location. So once you get a little more comfortable with moving around, it's easier to use relative paths. But that's just the deal on it. Now, when we go over here, a command that's really handy to use, ps1, set your prompt. ps1 equals, and then single tick $pwd, and then whatever that lead on that or ending on the prompt will be. If you change your prompt to reflect your directory structure, it's a little bit easier using Linux and getting around, especially if you're not used to using a command prompt. Okay, so an absolute path would be cd // That sets an absolute path to that top level directory. I'm using dir and ls synonymously for the most part. So if we go out to let's see, hold on. Okay, all right, so we are, we typed in cd space // that's an absolute directory or absolute path to the top level directory. If I type in cd / and I keep using the wrong slash, cd /home /Sean, that's also an absolute directory path. Okay, let's go back to that top level directory. Now a relative path or a shortcut, I don't know if I'd call it necessarily a relative path, but if I typed in cd, just simply cd, that command goes out and takes me to whatever my home directory is. So I could be anywhere else and go back to that home directory. If I were to make directory docs, so I'll just make a directory called docs, and then list it. I can see docs. So if I just cd space, I always get this wrong, docs, I think. There, that's setting a relative path. So cd space docs, it just goes right into my directory, docs directory. And then cd space .. goes up one directory. Okay, so that's absolute path and relative paths. Now thinking about that, these directories, here's this command, ps1 equals $pwd greater than, that changes that particular prompt Okay, again, these are those top level directories, and these are subdirectories. In this case, I just pulled this from the textbook. Jean and Tricia and Joseph, they're all subdirectories. So that's how, and really, this whole picture is here because we're in Linux. We're just at the command prompt. We're just used to bouncing around with these directory levels. I wanted to give you a visual as to where those directories would be. Okay, again, we talked about the main directory, and then we talked about those subdirectories. Sometimes they're called child and parent directories. Now I wanted to go to this partition command, or this one particular command called df. And if we look at df, what that shows us, it shows us the devices and how many blocks, 1K blocks, are associated with that particular device. How many is available? How many blocks, 1K blocks, are used? So they're just simply Ks. Linux talks about that a little bit differently than does Windows boxes. Okay, now the thing to bring to your attention though is right here under device SDA1. If we look at this, I'm going to move that over just a little bit. The SD means in this case a SCSI drive, and so it's seeing this drive. The system is seeing this drive that the VM created as a SCSI drive. It's like a network, a server drive, for instance. Now, if we go over here to the PowerPoint again, that third letter indicates if the disk is a primary or secondary, denoted in A or B, for instance. Back over here, SDA, it's a primary drive, and it's the first partition on that drive. That's how you tell where those particular partitions and systems are located. So again, using that df command is how we would do that. We already took a look at listing directory contents, but -L to view detailed information, -S to sort by size of the file or directory, and -A is probably another one that you'll need to think about. -A shows hidden files. So again, we have ls-l, that's that long display. Okay, ls space -S shows, I haven't found that to be useful, but it sorts by the size of the file or directory. And then we have ls-A. And these dots in front of these files, that indicates they're hidden files. So they're there, they're just hidden. Okay, listing of directory contents. So we did this. This shows the -L. Okay, notice that the first column, they're all Ds except for a dash. That indicates a directory. The dash indicates a file, that the particular file or directory is a file or folder. That's what it specifies. Now, the rest of the other, was it 9 letters, specifies the permissions. From a user, let's see, it's the user, other, group, and then others. Okay, so it's user, which is you, group, and other. So that's a permission set associated with that. We'll talk more about that later. It's actually, owner, group. This column shows the owner. This column shows the group. This column shows the size in bytes. And then we have the modification when this particular timestamp on this particular file, and then the file or folder name. So when we take a look at this, we can see the owner, the group, and there's nothing special because I just created these files, and so there's nothing special, it's just a new installation. The file size, and that 4096 is a default file size with this particular file system. The date stamp, or the time and date stamp, and then the name of it. Okay. Now, let's see. Using wildcards, you can do that just the same as you can in PowerShell or a command prompt of any kind, really. Let me scroll on. Creating and removing directories, we did that quickly. Remember, I made make dir docs. Now, I won't be able to again because it's already created. Okay, but that would be the command to do that. And rm dir, removing the directory docs. Okay, if there's anything in it, if there's anything within that directory, rmdir space -r to remove a directory that's not hidden or not empty. So we can see that with this command here. And then it would be docs. It's obviously not there. It's going to error out when I run this command, but that's how that works. And actually, rm-r docs. It's going to error out, but we'll get a little bit different error message. Okay, creating and removing directories. That was quick on that. Copying and deleting files. CP is to copy files. There's some and it's cryptic. It is cryptic as anything. It is you would use these kinds of commands though in scripts. It's way easier from a one user perspective to go ahead and copy and move things around in a graphical user interface. But you would use these commands like copy in a script. Okay, now I'm going to bounce over here and set some stuff up right quick. So I'll pause this really quickly. Okay, I'm back. I just created a directory called test and then created a file called stuff.txt and put that in that directory. Now, just to illustrate the copy command, I'm going to go here, copy. I'm going to use an absolute path, and it's home Sean test. And what's the file name? Stuff.txt. And I'm just going to drop it in with the same file name into my default directory. And I need to go home Sean, and I think that'll do it. Okay, so if we type in list, I do see stuff text in that directory. I go up a directory into my home directory, and I see stuff text there as well. Okay, so it's really cryptic, but using this command structure, that's typically what you would see used within script files that are kind of running under the surface of a graphical user interface. That's the structure you would see. Okay, next, file permissions. These permissions, let's see, I'm just going to hold on to that right there, and then we'll come right back to file permissions for a longer discussion.